Boy Town Biz. All right, so um, I was sent this and I did some research. So this appears to be true. Now, according to reports, it appears that Devin Haney has agreed to a multi-fight deal with DAZN under apparently DHP Promotions. Pretty much, Devin Haney, for the most part, is going to fight exclusively on the zone, and basically looks like his first fight on the zone under the new contract will be against Keyshawn Davis, in which there will be a purse bid Monday, the 27th. Now, on a side note, it was announced that Frank Martin has signed a multi-fight deal with Top Rank. If I'm not mistaken, Frank Martin is campaigning at 140. And then you heard Keyshawn basically post something on social media talking about Davis versus Martin. I hope he means one of his brothers versus Frank Martin, because if Keyshawn backs out of this fight after all the shit that he was talking, Keyshawn would look like the biggest punk and clout chaser in current boxing history. He was the one calling for this fight. He was claiming that Devin was ducking him. He was saying that he got dynamite in both of his hands. But if he tries to pull some shit where he basically elects to fight Frank Martin and stay at 140, this will say a lot about Keyshawn. Now, keep in mind, you have the bandwagon Keyshawn Davis fans that are saying he's going to knock out Devin Haney, you know, for whatever reason. I will not ever understand the hatred that people have for Devin Haney. I don't get it, especially people from the black community. Devin has never done anything to disrespect black people in the black community, but yet you got people that would rather cape for a non-black and Ryan Garcia, a racist Mexican that visibly and openly has congregated with known racists on whatever you call that, on Clubhouse. Let them say racist stuff about black people along with him saying racist stuff about black people. But this is the person that black people will defend and align themselves with. Says a lot about you backwards ass, coon ass niggas. But it's expected. You know, you know, just because we share melanin don't mean that we share the same thoughts. But with that being said, yeah, it appears that Devin has signed a multi-fight deal with the Zone, and they will do the purse bid with Keyshawn on Monday. And keep in mind, Tiafimo signed the deal, so in all likelihood, depending on what happens with Rolly and Tiafimo, they could revisit that. If Rolly is successful, they could revisit, a fight with Rolly and Devin, as Devin wants to become undisputed. Now, as far as Shakur goes, oh well, he's with Zuffa. At the end of the day, probably to Shakur, this is like a sign of relief, even though it's been proven that Zuffa is still willing to work with other promotional companies because they're working with Golden Boy. So, but it just goes to show you that Shakur had no intentions on fighting Devin Haney. But I'm telling you right now, if Keyshawn tries to get out of this fight and worm his way out of this fight, it ain't gonna be no way you can defend this. Because this is what he was calling for. This is what he was asking for. He said, hey, I want Devin Haney. All these fighters is ducking me, which nobody ain't ducking Keyshawn Davis. So I think this is good news for Devin. Once again, the Haneys are controlling their own destiny. As people said, they were in a great position. And I feel like, Devin, he needs to take care of business, continue to win, and secure his legacy. So, you know, because the more Devin wins and the better he looks winning, you know, he climbs the ladder as far as negotiations go and popularity go. Right, I can make an argument that Devin right now is the most popular boxer right now on the planet, not named Terrence Crawford. Devin is all in the algorithm. People are always talking about Devin, whether they like him or not. But this is interesting. This is interesting to hear about this news. But Bill had hinted that something big was on the horizon. Um, at the end of the day, um, a lot of people just be clout chasing Devin Haney. We saw that Tank wasn't serious about a fight, and the worst is gonna be for Tank. The more Tank sits out, the worse is gonna be for him in the negotiations with Devin, because Tank is, you know, Tank is on the shelf till sometime in 2027, and the more, or should I say, the longer he sits, as far as his popularity and his negotiation power goes, it dwindles because boxing is moving on without Tank, and it was proven that boxing will survive without Tank, with or without Tank. The needle is going to continue to move, and Tank isn't as relevant as he think he is. So, with that being said, um, by the time a fight rolls around with Devin and Tank, remember today's prices won't be won't be the same as yesterday's prices. So by the time Tank resurfaces sometime in 2027, there may not be a 55-45 in his favor. It may be 55-45 in Devin Haney's favor, especially by the time Tank resurface. And if Devin is a two or three, belt champion, how is Tank the A side? And he's been gone for well over a year. So y'all need to understand that's how boxing works. He's not Floyd Mayweather. He's only have one pay-per-view that's did over 1 million pay-per-view buys. So, I'm just keeping it 100. Time is passing by on Tank. A lot could change within the next year. A lot could change by the time 2027 rolls around. So I'm just saying, but this is a good look for the Haneys because once again, they are controlling the masses. They are moving the needle, you know. And I think sometimes to a certain degree, people hate that because they are afraid of change. I believe in evolution to a certain degree, and I believe change is good to a certain degree. There's a such thing as necessary change and then unnecessary change. And I think what the Handies are doing is necessary change in boxing. But we'll see. Just wanted to give you guys a quick briefing. Anyway, it's your boy Town. I'm out.